first and foremost, consumers want to know how exactly is Eskom justifying this request for 45% tariff hikes annually over the next 3 years?
Hi, Alicia. Certainly 45% is a large number, and we would definitely concede that. And as you say, given that we're asking for 45% for the next 3 years, so that makes it doubly so. The rationale for it is really to look at the issue of security of supply in the country, talking about electricity, of course. And in order for us to prevent load shedding, to make sure that we have enough power for growth of the economy, and of course to advance population, households, etc., is going to take power. Just to give an indication, at the moment our installed capacity from a generation point of view is 42,000 megawatts on the system. By 2020, we need to add a further 20,000 megawatts to that. And simply put, this isn't going to come cheap. For the next 5 years alone, we're looking at almost 400 billion rands worth of capital expenditure. Yeah. And to fund that, unfortunately, means a large amount of borrowing, no opportunity for equity, and to repay those loans, we have to bulk up Eskom's financial position.
Let's take a look at it, because we're looking at a 385 billion rand that Eskom needs to fund its 5-year expansion program. How much are you raising from the price increases? How much through bonds and then government support as well, if we look at it percentage-wise?
Right. Well, firstly, let's start with the easy one. In terms of government's position, they are, unfortunately, everyone's aware of the falling revenues of governments, not only in South Africa, but around the world. So additional injections of equity from the government above the 60 billion, which has been committed, a very low probability of that. In terms of further support from the stakeholder, 178 billion rands worth of guarantees have been made available by the shareholders, and that will certainly assist in raising the debt. But the balance would be coming from revenue. So to answer your question specifically, we'd be looking at borrowing around 40 billion rand per annum. And of course, that all still has to be paid back through revenue, which brings me to my earlier point. But the balance would be through tariffs.
We were speaking to Richard Downing a little earlier on in the show, and he was saying that a major concern with this initiative moving forward, that it is going to be an investment killer. I mean, we did see Bobby Gotzel last week saying that the government did open up the electricity sector to new players, investment players into the market, and a key incentive for them were low energy prices. Just what impact do you see this having on investment moving forward?
Certainly. For the last 15 or 20 years, we have enjoyed low electricity prices and abundant supplies of electricity, and that has certainly attracted energy-intensive industries to our shores. And yes, we would concede that there would be a lot of pressure on future investments of that type. So we would really, from a macroeconomic point of view, need to take electricity intensity into account, and certainly I think the days of abundant smelters and mines not using energy-efficient technology are a thing of the past. Fortunately, there are energy-efficient technologies, and so smelting and mining would be able to continue, but not in the way that we've done it in the past.
That having been said, we've got various industries, and specifically smelters that take up BHP smelters taking up 5% of Eskom's grid, specifically having already negotiated long-term contracts. So what's the pathway that's being etched out moving forward in that regard, in terms of renegotiation that's possibly on the table with regards to those contracts?
Certainly. I think, once again, we must concede that aluminium contracts at the moment are not favorable to Eskom, but over the last decades, they certainly have been. So, it's a case of swings and roundabouts. But there are two issues with regards to the aluminium contracts. The first is the fact that there are links to the underlying commodity price of aluminium, basically the embedded derivative issue. And secondly, the overall level, the average level of those contracts. Now, in terms of the volatility which is introduced through those embedded derivatives, that's where we will be in discussion with BHP Billiton to see what can be done about those. But fundamentally, the overall level of the contract would be far more difficult to extract ourselves from, and certainly from Eskom, we are committed to honour the contracts which we've entered into, which at the moment may not be favourable, but it certainly served us very well in the past.
That one restructure that may need to happen moving forward, what about internally pay structures? It's been in the public domain for a while. It's been under public scrutiny. Are we looking at shifts in that regard as far as bonuses and incentives and pay in general is concerned?
difficult for me to comment. I think the issue of pay structures is one where the board remuneration, we have a board of directors with a remuneration committee who decides on the remuneration of top executives. And then right on the other extreme, we have a bargaining unit, which had an increase of 10.5%, 10.55% for the current year. So there are different categories of employees, each of which has a different philosophy in determining their remuneration. But certainly what we have also needing to do is, and this is a dilemma, of course, that is a cost, but at the same time we have to recruit and retain talent in the organization. So what we have to do is rely on the regulator who would scrutinize each of our costs with a fine-tooth comb over the next few months, and they would make a determination. And where they do find inefficiencies, they certainly would bare their teeth and cut those out.